Hey, this is Andrew bringing you a Keyforge News Omnibus. Yeah, I've been a little behind on this. I like covering the Keyforge news, but just got behind. So this is going to cover basically stuff that has happened in Keyforge news since roughly the beginning of the summer, I guess. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is probably the nerdiest of these topics, is Keyforge publishing. And yeah, like I said, I know this is nerdy, but for someone who's just interested in how the board game industry works, the way that Keyforge is published is quite interesting. Fantasy Flight Games has, for a while, tried to do interesting, different things with the LCG format. Yeah, just doing different things than the old school collectible card game format, and the unique deck format of Keyforge is just very different. So I've been interested in where they're going to go with it, how they're going to change it, and I expect that more games as we go on into the future are going to learn and adapt from this. So with that said, we know house rotation is a thing. The next set for Keyforge is going to take two houses out and put in two new houses. And yeah, so I'll cover that in the next slide, exactly the specifics, but they've said this is just going to be a normal thing, and that houses that are taken out should come back in the future. So that's a pretty cool thing. So we know that houses will rotate in and out. Now, looking at that, you might go, well, what about the old houses that I love? Is it possible to see their cards in the new sets? And the answer is it's possible, but it'll be very, very rare. So I heard Brad Andrews assure someone that yes, it is possible to get a Legacy Maverick of a rotated out card of a card from an old house. Doesn't belong in the current set. It can still show up as a Legacy Maverick. Yeah, so and in addition to that, there's a new special type. So legacies, as you probably already know, are cards from a past set that show up in the current set. Mavericks are cards from a different house that show up in quote unquote the wrong house. Anomalies are cards that initially, when they were announced, the way they were talked about is they are cards that just don't belong in any house in the current set. So they have the same behavior as Mavericks. They're like a Maverick in whatever house they show up in, right? They don't really belong to that house, but we don't really know what house they belong to. And I guess I made the assumption at that point that like Grim Reaper is probably Deece, right? That's how he would fit in. And Grim Reaper was the initial example that was shown, but it seems now like they're probably from houses that just aren't here yet. So these might be from houses that are just yet to be revealed. And maybe that's not true about all of them. Maybe some of them are from houses we currently have, but I've come to believe that Grim Reaper is probably from a different house, mostly because of a Twitter post by Brad. So yeah, I think, and there's another one in there. Like there's a creature that's an Aquan that's been revealed, and it just wouldn't fit anywhere, but it does fit with some creatures that are shown in art in cards like Terms of Redress. So I suspect that's probably just a house that hasn't been revealed yet, but we don't really know. Anyway, but anomalies are from the future. So this Grim Reaper is a card that will exist in the future, but it can show up in the next set, which is super cool. Okay. And in a video from Fantasy Flight Games, Richard Garfield talked about the fact that they are going to be exploring more procedurally generated cards. And there are some examples in set 3, like Brew and then Mega Creatures that that he cited as an example of this. It's interesting because hearing him talk about the game, it's he's I don't know that he is super aware of like what's coming out in any given set, which is more of a, I guess that's on the game development side more than the design side. But anyway, the way he talked about it, these are more procedurally generated cards. Now, interestingly, they each have their own unique sequence number in the set. So to me, that's a little weird to think of them as procedurally generated. But it is true that, like for example, Chieftain's Brew, it can only show up if you have a Ganger Chieftain in your deck. So there are, yeah. So I think it is fair to refer to it as procedurally generated. But anyway, it's very very interesting, and and he said they want to go more in that direction of like just weird stuff that wouldn't be possible in a traditional deck building game. Okay, so that's all I could think of as far as changes to how they're doing publishing. So yeah, let's talk about set 3. So set 3 is Worlds Collide. It's pretty well confirmed at this point, by the way, that whatever color is on the back of the current set is going to be on the front of the next set. So I think that means set 4 is going to be green or something, but set 3 has a purple box. And yeah, Mars and Sanctum are no longer houses in set 3 that can be on your Archon card. Instead, Saurian and the Grand Star Alliance are houses that can show up on your Archon card. And of course, they have a whole set of cards that can go along with them. And new mechanics to boot, and new themes. So brand new mechanics. Oh, so these Saurians are these like really cool looking like Roman dinosaurs that I think a lot of us are really excited about. And the Star Alliance are a sort of like Star Trek like house that yeah has a lot of there's a lot of Star Trek references, and they like space, and they certainly seem to like working together. It's interesting because various people have tried to make connections to like, oh well, this is the new Sanctum and this is the new Mars, and it just doesn't quite map, which is great. I think that's really great that they don't quite map, because that was one of the things I was worried about, is if they rotate out houses, how will they distinguish the new ones from the old ones? If you replace Shadows with the Lurkers, or I don't know, something, and like, oh yeah, they also like to steal, like it wouldn't be like, well, what was the point of that? You just want to change the theme. But here they are mechanically different. The Saurians are mechanically quite different from either Mars or Sanctum, and the Star Alliance is also quite mechanically different from Mars or Sanctum. So they really did a great job, and I'm very excited about even what the future holds. So some brand new mechanics are Exalt, and you'll see this a lot in the Saurians. So Exalt is a mechanic whereby you take an amber from the common supply and you place it on a creature that you control, and so it is equivalent to saying your opponent gains an amber, your creature captures an amber. This is that obviously is a benefit to your opponent, not you, right? Because when your creature dies, your opponent is going to get the amber. However, the Saurians have a lot of mechanics around you getting a benefit from this. So in many cases, there's a benefit to you that accrues in exchange for your creature becoming exalted. Okay, so it's sort of like a push your luck mechanic, right? Like, hey, this will help you win, but it could also help your opponent win. So you need to know when it's a good idea to do it or not. Um, but they also have effects that mitigate that, like creatures that can let you spend amber off the creature when you forge, or uh, effects that move amber from creatures to your pool, or effects that move creatures from amber from your creatures to the common supply when they're destroyed. Uh, they have a key cheat that reduces the cost to do the forge based on how much amber is on creatures you control. So, these are all uh, really neat, interesting mechanics, right? Where you're again potentially giving your opponent a benefit in the long run if things go wrong for you, but you hope that it's for a benefit for you that helps you win, and it seems really cool. Uh, and Saurians are really heavy on that. I haven't seen a card yet that does Exalt in any other house, but it's certainly possible. But I've only seen it so far in the Saurians. Ward is a mechanic. It's a new token that gets placed on a creature, and it works like stun in that if a creature has the token, they can't get a new one. And Ward says that if the creature would either take damage or be destroyed, you instead remove the Ward token. And I'm actually really excited about this from a rules perspective because I think it'll help more people be familiar and comfortable with how replacement effects work. Replacement effects have been around in Keyforge for a while. Think about Armageddon Cloak, for example. But or Pose Pixies, but they are rare enough that people haven't experienced them a lot, and Ward I think will get people more used to this idea of a replacement effect. So yeah, if a creature would be destroyed but it's warded, then it's not destroyed, and for the purposes of any card effects or whatever, it was not destroyed, and you remove the ward token. If a creature that's warded would take damage, it just doesn't take the damage, and instead it loses the ward. Okay, Enraged is another new status token that can be placed on a creature, and it works the same way. Sorry, I had to get my dog's attention there. But when a creature's enraged, it can't be used to do anything but fight if it could fight. So if your opponent has no creatures on the board, then you can reap with the creature. But if it could possibly fight, then it can't do anything but fight. So you could still choose not to use the creature. That's my understanding, but you can't reap or action or anything like that. Additionally, when you do use the creature to fight, it loses that enraged token. So it's not a forever thing. It's just a one-time thing, unless of course a new enraged token gets put on it. There are some other like subtler new mechanics, like creatures that can double as upgrades. Um, Trying to think if there are any other obvious. There's a creature that when it's destroyed, it's healed and moved to a flank and exhausted instead. Uh, there's a lot of mechanics that care about the battle line orientation and how many of a creature's neighbors are of its same house. Um, so things that either reward or punish uh, sameness or diversity in neighbors, which is really kind of an interesting effect, I think. Um, and then sure seems like Dees has a lot more purge, which is pretty exciting. I think that's going to be great for countering the crazy combos in Coda and AOA. If you can if you can just purge a lot of your opponent's cards and make you just totally deny them access to those cards. Uh, yeah. So, and then I guess this is not like official news, but um, Target did start selling Worlds Collide early. There's rumors about whether this was actually a mistake or intentional or I don't know. Somebody made the assertion that the real loser in the situation is local game stores that are going to sell less because people are buying these, and I certainly not true of me. I mean, I'm so excited for the new set. I'm not going to be buying less because of the Target leak. So certainly in my case won't hurt anybody. Uh, a lot of people got their hands on starter sets. I got my hands on a bunch and was able to basically share them around roughly at cost to a bunch of fellow players at the Vegas Vault Tour. Um, and I opened up one for me and my 11-year-old who's super into Keyforge. My 9-year-old is okay waiting. But yeah, we opened up and played some games. That video is on my channel. You can check out those decks. It was super fun. We both got dinos. Yeah, as a result of that, all the cards are spoiled now. So if you really want to see them, you can go out on the internet and find them. I haven't gone and looked through the whole list yet, and I'm super into this stuff, but I haven't gone through the list because I'm still really excited about discovering things as I open decks. But I will, once the set comes out, be doing a full set review like I did with Coda and AOA, going through every card. So if you like those, then you can look forward to that. But yeah, I haven't looked through all the spoilers yet. Just I like to be surprised. So okay, what is next? Let's talk about local play. So Alex Watkins of Keyforge Organized Play was teasing this huge reveal, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, we're doing another reveal a couple days before, and it was this one." And man, they just kept coming up with new crazy news. So just mind blown, because it gets bigger from here. But in any case, there are some changes to local play. Just it's not any really changes is a weird word to say. It's new opportunities that didn't exist before. The old opportunities are still around. So weekly chain bound is still a thing that your LGS can do and hopefully will continue doing. But in addition to that, your local game store can do a weekly sealed event, and so this means that all the participants would show up. They would open a deck and play it in a little event for Amber Shards. Sorry, little dog break there again. Sybil, come. Good girl. All right, we're doing a video. Um, yeah. So yeah, you get open a deck, play it, get Amber Shards, and do that on a weekly basis. And if a store does that and Chainbound, those go on a leaderboard together. If they just do one or the other, the leaderboard will just contain the results from that event, but it will track your results as a player on that leaderboard. So you, as a player at your local store, will be on the leaderboard for your store. Each store gets its own leaderboard, and if the store participates in getting these weekly leaderboard price or monthly leaderboard price kits, then they will get 4 alt art decks uh, that will go to the top 4 players on the leaderboard for the month, which is super cool. And when I say alt art deck, what this means is this is my current understanding of the way they described it, and it wasn't like incredibly clear, but this is how I understand it. They will have a card that is going to be an alt art card for that month, and the store will get 4 decks, and each of those 4 decks will contain at least one copy of that card. So for the first month for November, it's going to be Hawk. So for Hawk, so for November, the the top 4 players will each get a deck that contains Hawk, which is one of the new cards from Worlds Collide. And every copy of Hawk in those decks will have a different art than normal. So um, they might have only one copy, they might have multiple copies, but every copy they do have will be the different art, the alternate art. And then in December it'll be a different card, and in January it'll be a different card. So it'll be a different card every month. The decks will have at least one, possibly multiple, of the card, and every copy of the card will be the alternate art. So yeah, that's super cool. I've been wondering, FFG really likes to do alt arts for their games, and I've been wondering how they're going to do it for Keyforge, and I think this is a fantastic way to do it. And as far as I know, these are like pretty limited print runs. It's not like they're going to have you know, scads of these. So so I expect that if you don't get one, you know, in November, then with the alt art Hawk, you're not going to be able to get one with the alt art Hawk. That's my expectation. But they haven't promised that. But that's my guess. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so that is just new stuff for local game store play. There's also been a lot of stuff announced for the sort of casual organized play. This is just their normal events. That FNG has always done these type of events where they have cool prizes that they hand out for people who do well in the events, or even just for participating. And so changes. Yeti Gaming is running the Vault Tours, and I know there's some drama around that. I can tell you, having been to Vault Tours before and after Yeti took over, the one after was run more smoothly, definitely run better. It's hard to know, whether that's because FFG had figured some things out, or because it was smaller, or possibly because Yeti just, has a better plan. It's really hard to make those kinds of claims. I just know it was run pretty well in Vegas compared to what I experienced in Gen Con. But yeah, so new company running Vault Tours. If you went to one Gen Con or earlier, and you had a bad experience, and just know that it's new people running it. Prime championships are store championships are the lowest sort of level, I guess. How do I put it? So there's like Chainbound and these weekly sealed events, and then your store can do like premium kit events all they want. But once every 6 months, they can do a store champ, and every store can do this. They can just order a kit to do it, and there's no muss, no fuss. And that can happen once every 6 months at each store. But there's no reward for store champs beyond the swag and the amber shards. Prime championships are sort of the next level up, and they are intended to be the equivalent of like a regional event, and they are not run. They're not available to every store. You have to apply to do this. It seems to me like FFG are being pretty choosy, that they want bigger venues with a little more, just a little more room and maybe flash. And yeah, these I expect to have more players because there are fewer of them. People will travel for them. They have a little snazzier prizes, like for example, these prizes over on the right here, these play mats. I think top 4 players at a prime get the Grim Reaper mat, and which is from an anomaly, and then this mat down at the bottom is also an anomaly. We didn't know that at the time, but I guess we could have guessed it But yeah, uh, that goes to the top player, and the top player at the Prime Championship also gets an invite to Worlds. So that is one of the ways you can get into Worlds. If the first place player gets an invite to, they announce that if you get an invite to Worlds some other way, then it'll go to this. The invite will go to the second place player, which is pretty cool. It doesn't go down beyond that, but it could go to the second place player, which I think is very nice. And you'll get this like Dominator Bobble invite thingy ticket. Grand Champs top four also get a Worlds invite, and the top 100 players on the Vault Tour leaderboard will also get an invite to Worlds, which is kind of weird because that's, well, I guess it's not super weird, but the leaderboard is counting Amber Shards won at Vault Tours. So you can do pretty well there just by going, if you go to a lot of Vault Tours and get 4-2 or 3-3, or, you know, get day 2 and lose in the first round, you're probably going to be in that top 100. If you go to 1 and win, you're probably in pretty good shape. But you know, if you go to 1, so I've been to 3 Vault Tours. I went 4-2 at the first 2, didn't make it to day 2, and went got to day 2, got to top 8 in my third Vault Tour, and I'm number 80 on that chart. So it is, you know, and I fully expect to get knocked off of that if I don't go to more Vault Tours. So by the time the invites go out, so it is a little bit hard to get there, and it depends on like actually showing up to a bunch of events. Anyway, but those are the 3 ways that we know of right now that you can get a Worlds invite. And Worlds is the World Championships of normal Keyforge organized play. And this is pretty crazy. It's going to be a team event. So it's going to be teams of 3 players. You only need 1 invite per team. So if you get an invite, you pick 2 friends to come with you, and they play with you. And we've seen how some of these team events work. The typical format seems to be that the 3 players on my team play against the 3 players on your team, and between those 3 games we have a best 2 out of 3, or you might even win all 3, right? And then you win the matchup. But if we win 2 and you win 1, then we win the matchup. So it's a best 2 out of 3 situation out of 3 players, and that seems like a pretty cool format to do these matchups. And I've seen some interesting variants on that, but yeah, it seems like a cool format. I'm excited about being a team event. I feel like it nerfs the like crazy competitiveness a little bit, because it's like, hey, no, you should bring some friends, and it's not all about you as an individual doing, you know, being the best at Keyforge. It's about you going with friends and having fun. So I'm like really excited about that element of it. Now, I mean, if you think about it, just from the top 100 on the leaderboard, that's already potentially 100 teams of 3 people there. There's been a lot of Prime Champs, or Grand Champs, and there's going to be a lot of Prime Champs. So, I mean, I get really it'll be limited by people who decide they want to go, but it seems like it could potentially be just a lot of people, really crazy. So, I mean, it'd be amazing if it was like a 1,000+ people event, and like 2-3 days long of just crazy Keyforge playing. That'd be incredibly fun. So I think they've said it'll be 2 days, but I mean, with how many people this could end up being, I don't know what they're going to do. So anyway, super cool. I mean, I'm so excited. Yeah, and those are the ways that you can get in. So cool stuff. And Prime Champs start on November 2nd. That's the earliest date that any are scheduled. Okay, let's move to the last page here. In addition to the what I'm calling casual organized play, there is also a money-based organized play that they've announced, and this is crazy news because this is the first time that Fantasy Flight Games has ever done cash prizes for their events. Now, other people have done cash prizes for some of their events, but uh, this is the first time they've done it, and they're putting up the money for these prizes. Um, I think it says a lot about what they think about the potential and future of this game, and yeah, I think it's great. So the name for this series of events is Vault Warrior, and they have a sort of like lore explanation for that. Yeah, whatever. But there are 3 levels here, and so there are going to be local tryouts that any store can apply to do. There's no cash payout for the local tryout, but the winner of a tryout does get to participate in the qualifier for free. Um, and they're encouraging stores to try to put together like packages to like help get their tryout winner to a qualifier. Um, and they're gonna have they're gonna have prizes and stuff for that. And they've said if you set up to like be able to for your store to be able to pay to send your tryout winner to a qualifier, we'll cover your prize kit for the tryout, which is interesting. It seems cool. I don't know how many stores are going to do that though, because I think stores are pretty strapped. But anyway, it's a cool idea. Um, yeah, but if you win the local tryout, you at least don't have to pay your way into the qualifier. Qualifiers are open, so if you haven't won a tryout, you can just show up at a qualifier and buy your way in. I don't know how much tickets are going to cost, um, but they are open in that sense. The qualifiers are a 3 day event, so they're going to have the first day is going to be an Archon tournament with the current whatever the current set is at the time that it's run. Day 2 will be Archon with the 2 previous sets eligible, and day 3 will be Archon with whatever you want. Um, and I think this is it. This isn't like an example. I think this is it. Um, this is like the real what they're doing. But so it pushes you to be able to do different things. You have to like collect some decks from a few different sets. The interesting thing here is for their normal organized play, they've promised there's no rotation or anything like that. At an Archon event, you can bring a deck from any set and it'll be eligible. For the Vault Warrior, they are pushing these like specific requirements, and I guess some people are like, "Oh, this is rotation," and it's really not. It's fine. It's a side set of events. It's and it's not even like rotation. It's like, look, day 3 you can still bring whatever you want, but it's just pushing you to like do some different things. It's just trying to push variety. So I think it's fine, and and they and the variants could be like uh, adaptive triad or solo best of 3 for the tryouts, adaptive triad solo best of 3 or reversal for the qualifiers, or and the championships will be uh, forcing people into doing Archon with whatever the current set is, and adaptive, which I think is fantastic. It's great. It'll be putting on display like, here is very high level play. You don't even have to have an amazing deck, right? If it's Archon, in fact, you're almost better off bringing a weird deck. So I think it's fantastic that they're setting it up that way. Uh, yeah. So if you win a qualifier, you get a seat at the championship, and you also get prizes. The prize pool for a qualifier is $10,000, which is pretty nice. And then the prize pool for a champion for the championship is going to be $100,000. So that's $200,000 total because they're doing 10 qualifiers around the world. The qualifiers are 3 day events. I mentioned that. That's pretty crazy. And then the championships, there's going to be a there is going to be a 2-day pre-championship last chance qualifier event uh, for people to try to just get in, uh, and then they'll be doing a vault tour next to the championship for anybody who doesn't make it in, to be able to do a vault tour event. So that is pretty cool. And then the champs itself will be a 2-day event. So this introduces money officially into the game, which I think is fine. Yeah, I just think it's great. It'll push people's play levels, um, and it sort of separates out. People don't feel like they have to show up at a vault tour and show that they're the best in the world. They'll take the people that really, really just want to be like, oh, I'm the best in the world. They can go do this thing. Um, and I think it's going to be great for the secondary market on decks. I just think it's great all around. So, yeah, I'm excited to see how that goes. I'm really excited for FFG to still be trying new things, which I like when they do that. And yeah, so that's kind of a summary of Keyforge news. Oh, I guess last thing that maybe is worth mentioning, and this is a little bit of a downer to end on, but if you haven't been following, then you might not know. At the last vault tour in Vegas, which I guess isn't the last vault tour now, because there was one. Well, I don't know. At the last at the last vault tour I went to in Vegas, there was a player who was definitely caught breaking the rules by not shuffling and not presenting their deck to be cut. They on stream in the top 8 game, and they went on to win, which is just a crappy, terrible situation. Um, and so that's pretty interesting. You can read more about that if you want. If you Google Vegas Vault Tour Shuffle, probably you'll find it. But what's more interesting to me is that I think the community has been handling it pretty well, and I've heard a lot of voices on various podcasts and Discord channels and whatnot saying, hey, we just need to come together as a community and make sure we are pushing people to do clean play, teaching people how to hold each other accountable in a kind way to make sure this stuff doesn't happen and make sure this doesn't become the norm in the game. Whether or not this particular thing was intentional, just making sure that we aren't a community where that's a thing that people do or have to worry about all the time. So anyway, that's been really encouraging to hear, and I would say it all starts with you and me at the local level, playing, being kind to the people that we're playing with, calling ourselves out on mistakes. Chainbound the other day, Monday, I didn't overdraw, but I knocked a card down and I saw it by accident. I said, "Oops! I knocked this card off. I saw it. I shouldn't have. Here it is." I showed it to my opponent. I said, "What do you want me to do?" They said, "I'll just put it back on top of your deck. It's fine." And we moved on. But just get in that habit of communicating, playing clean, and just all getting better together. So anyway, I think the community is pretty good about that. We just need to keep it the way it is. So with that said, thank you so much for watching this far. I hope you enjoyed this just overview of the last few months of Keyforge news. It's been a doozy, and thanks to FFG for doing great stuff, and thanks to all the other players for being out there doing good stuff and being there to play with. Y'all are awesome, and I'm so thankful to be part of this community. Great, thanks, and get out there and forge some keys.